Thanks for joining us. I'm Lila, and this is Teen Kids News. Here's our top story for the week. Movies like Jaws and The Meg make sharks look like bloodthirsty predators, constantly on the hunt for human victims. But, as you'll see from our report, sharks are getting a bad rap.
I'm honestly kind of scared of them.
I mean, they're a little dangerous whenever you're doing something that triggers them.
They're scary.
Yes, sharks are scary. But are they as dangerous as many of us believe? To get the facts about sharks, we're joined by marine scientist Alex Ains. She's from Oceana, an organization working to protect our oceans. Oceana has a list of myths about sharks. The first is sharks are ferocious hunters. They're not?
Of course, many sharks are apex predators and do hunt for food, but some of the biggest sharks in the world, like whale sharks, basking sharks, are actually filter feeders and eat mostly plankton and other tiny organisms.
And by apex predators, you mean?
Top of the food chain, no other predators that consume those species.
And what does filter feeders mean exactly?
Filter feeders, like a whale shark or other species of sharks or basking sharks, will filter basically through their gills or mouths to collect kind of tiny organisms. So they often don't have those pointy teeth that you often think that sharks have.
Good to know if I come across a whale or basking shark. But what about the others, like great whites? Those kinds of sharks seem to be killing machines, basically mindless predators. Are they?
Just like any animal, sharks need to eat to survive, and indeed some sharks, like great whites, are apex predators, but they are certainly not mindless. Sharks have complex social behavior. So some species can learn information from other sharks, they can form social relationships, they can communicate with body language, and they can even work together to hunt their prey sometimes.
So they're not mindless predators, they're thoughtful predators. Not sure that's comforting. Moving on, sharks are said to be super smellers. They can detect a single drop of blood from a mile away, which makes swimming with even a small cut scary.
Well, sharks do have great noses, but studies actually indicate that they are no better than any other kind of fish at detecting faint smells in water. So they certainly excel at sniffing out a meal, but they don't quite live up to the reputation the media has built for them.
Oh, okay. Next is the claim that sharks must swim constantly to survive.
So it actually depends on the species. Some sharks do need to swim almost constantly since water flowing over their gills is how they quote unquote breathe and get oxygen. But not all species are like that. Sharks like nurse sharks can rest on the bottom of the seafloor and still breathe without having to actually swim.
There are supposedly two reasons why we should hunt sharks. One is that they threaten fishers' livelihoods.
Sharks actually play a really important role in keeping ocean ecosystems in balance. They keep prey populations in check and feed on old and sick fish. They help to keep the overall population of fish healthier. So even though fishers and sharks may sometimes target the same species, sharks have an overall positive impact for fishers.
And the other alleged reason to hunt sharks is to protect ourselves.
While it's true that sharks can bite people, such occurrences are very rare. Far less common than being struck by lightning, being attacked by a bear, getting into a car accident, or even being bitten by another person on a street in New York City, my favorite one. There's no reason to hunt sharks because sharks aren't targeting humans.
But as you said, sharks are apex predators, meaning they don't need to fear anything?
Some species of sharks are apex predators and have very few natural predators. However, all sharks have something to fear, and that's us. Sharks are declining at an alarming rate, mostly because we overfish them. The continued survival of many shark species is jeopardized by the shark fin trade, with fins from up to 73 million sharks entering the international market each year.
Wow. So what would happen if sharks continue to be overhunted?
As I said before, sharks keep the oceans balanced. So without them, entire marine ecosystems and the people whose lives depend on them are at risk. So to have healthy oceans, we actually really need sharks.
What can we teens do?
To make big and lasting change, we need stronger laws. You can use your voice to help protect sharks and other ocean creatures by contacting your local elected officials. Make sure that protecting the oceans and addressing climate change are on the top of their list. You can also join science-based environmental groups in your local community or globally, like Oceana, who are getting things done for the oceans. You can join us and help protect the oceans at oceana.org.
That's something we can do. Thanks, Alex.
No problem. Thank you.
The thought that sharks have more to fear from us than we do from them makes sharks a bit less terrifying, but just a bit. To find out more about the many programs run by Oceana, definitely check out their website. For Teen Kids News, I'm Brendan.
We've got lots more coming up, so stick around. And during this break, please take a sec to like, follow, and subscribe to our socials so you never miss out on Teen Kids News. We'll be right back. Too many of us teens are held back by the fear that we might fail. Failing isn't a dead end. A surprising number of very successful people failed, but didn't give up. Here's one of them.
Back in the 1990s, there was a TV show called Star Search. In many ways, it was like American Idol. Performers would compete against each other, and judges would vote on a winner. If there was a tie, then the studio audience was invited to vote as well. In 1993, a rap group named Girls' Tyme had high hopes. They believed that winning on Star Search would finally be their ticket to stardom. Unfortunately, they lost. One of the singers wasn't deterred. With the help of her father, changes were made. A new group was formed. It was called Destiny's Child. And that singer who refused to give up? She's Beyonce. Need I say more? Queen Bee's advice on not giving up. Never let success go to your head. Never let failure get to your heart. With If at First You Don't Succeed, I'm Emily for Teen Kids News.
Scientists around the world are constantly scouring the universe, looking for planets that could support some form of life. So far, there's only one, Earth. While astronomers have identified 59 planets that may have water, the overwhelming majority don't seem capable of hosting life, at least not life as we know it. Some planets are too toxic, some too cold, and some too hot. For example, one place you definitely don't want to visit is the planet WASP 76b. When it rains there, it rains molten iron. Just in our Milky Way galaxy, there are some 40 billion planets that might be home to living things. That's why many scientists believe it isn't a matter of if we'll find life out there, but when we'll find it. For Teen Kids News, I'm Mason.
We have to take a quick break, but don't go away because Teen Kids News will be right back. It's time for some tips to help you make the grade.
Things like noise and distractions aside, the experts say where you study can have an impact on how well you study. For reviewing major topics for a test, they recommend sitting at a desk or table. In fact, they say you should try to recreate as much as possible the setting where you'll be taking the test. But wait till you hear where they recommend you should study for simple memory tasks such as flashcards or memorizing a poem. In bed, at least for some of the work. Research shows that it may be easier to memorize things before you go to sleep rather than in the morning. It seems the mind keeps on working overnight. By the way, if you think sleeping on your textbooks will help, it won't. I'm Kristen, here to help you make the grade. Where was I? I never saw more, I never saw the sea. Yet know I how the weather looks and what a billow be. I never spoke with God nor visited in heaven. Yet certain am I of the spot as if the checks were given.
Not counting humans, what do you think the deadliest creature on Earth is? It's not the king of the jungle, nor a deadly snake, or even a fearsome crocodile. The deadliest creature on the planet is also one of the smallest, the mosquito, because mosquitoes transmit diseases like malaria and yellow fever. They cause the death of more than 700,000 people a year. But don't panic. The chances of getting bitten by an infected mosquito here in the US is pretty small. Still, you should take precautions, especially if you live in the areas of the country that are hot, humid, and close to water. Use mosquito repellent, wear long pants, socks, and long sleeve shirts, and try to avoid being outside early in the morning and in the evening. That's when the critters are most active. For Teen Kids News, I'm Mackenzie. Gotcha.
It's time for another important message brought to you by the National Road Safety Foundation.
Hi, I'm Drowsy. You know the feeling you get when you're really tired? Yeah, I caused that. When you don't get enough sleep, you become my BFF. I know you're too tired to drive, but I don't let you know that. Because I love causing car crashes. I can make you lose focus, even fall back asleep.
The NRSF produces lots of helpful videos. For info on driving safely, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the National Road Safety Foundation. We'll be right back with more Teen Kids News. You'd probably think that the best place in the world to see ancient Greek ruins would be in Greece. Prepare to be surprised.
Sicily is a triangle-shaped island that looks like it's about to be kicked by the boot of Italy. Along Sicily's southern coast is the town of Agrigento. It overlooks the Valley of the Temples, one of the world's biggest and most impressive archaeological sites. Although Sicily today is part of Italy, back in ancient times, Sicily was actually a Greek province. Although the Greeks are long gone, their influence can be seen in the iconic architecture that is still standing after more than 25 centuries. This is the temple dedicated to the goddess Hera. She was the wife of Zeus, the lightning bolt-throwing king of the Greek gods. When the Romans conquered Sicily, they renamed the temple in honor of their goddess, Juno, wife of the king of Rome's gods, Jupiter. Unlike our modern houses of worship, Greek temples typically had two altars, one inside for the priests, and one outside, in front of the temple, for the public. This was where sacrifices to the gods were made. In all, the Valley of Temples contained 7 buildings, all dating from around the 5th century BCE. The largest, the Temple of Zeus, is now little more than piles of broken rock. Its dimensions were immense, longer than a football field and higher than a 6-story building. This is a model of what it was probably supposed to look like. It's believed the temple was built to commemorate the Greek victory over Carthage, and that it was erected by captured soldiers. The sides of the exterior walls were adorned with giant statues of Atlas. You remember, he was the guy doomed to spend eternity holding the earth on his shoulders. Archaeologists reconstructed an atlas from pieces found scattered across the field of debris. This is a duplicate of the real one in the museum. Actually, the Temple of Zeus was never completed. Apparently, the area was invaded again, forcing construction to stop. What the invaders didn't destroy, earthquakes did. Over the centuries, the stones of the ruined temple were stolen and used to build homes in the city of Agrigento. The pride of the Valley of Temples is this one, the Temple of Concordia. It's one of the best preserved Greek temples in the world. It has a strange history. Built by the Greeks, it was named after the Roman goddess of harmony, Concordia. But in the 6th century CE, it became a Christian church. That no doubt saved it from suffering the fate of so many other ancient Greek buildings, which were destroyed by early Christians. If the style of the temples here looks familiar, it's because many of our modern buildings copied elements of what's called the Greek Doric style. The US Capitol, the Lincoln Memorial, even your local bank were all influenced by the architecture so vividly on display in these temples in Sicily. By the way, just why this area is called the Valley of Temples is a mystery. The temples aren't in a valley, but rather high up on a plateau. The entire area was surrounded by high walls. Originally built as fortifications, in the Middle Ages, the walls became vertical cemeteries. The locals dug out holes in the soft sandstone and buried their dead inside. If you rap on the wall here, just a dull thud, but up here, it rings hollow, probably meaning there's still someone's remains remaining in the carved out space inside. Pretty eerie, no? With Seeing Sicily, I'm Ava.
The actress famous for playing Wonder Woman started out like so many of us, selling hamburgers and fries. Gal Gadot's first job experience was behind the counter at a Burger King. Working in a fast food restaurant might have been good training for her other big film role in the Fast and Furious movies.
Each week, Teen Kids News showcases a comment sent in by a viewer. So, don't be shy. Send us a short note about the show. Then, watch for your debut on national TV. Please include your first name and your town or city. And if you want, send a photo too. We'll be right back with more Teen Kids News. Here's another kitchen tip from Katie.
Here's a smart way to heat up leftovers in a microwave. Don't just pile them up in a heap. Instead, space out the leftovers so the center is open. Then, just pop them in the microwave as usual. This is a great tip to remember for leftovers, because as the Spanish philosopher Santayana once said, those who don't remember their repast are doomed to reheat it. Actually, Santayana didn't exactly say that, but if you look up his original quote, it'll make more sense. Sorta. For Teen Kids News, I'm Katie.
If you're squirmish, you probably won't want to go swimming in the waters off of Japan. That's where the giant Japanese spider crabs live. Okay, maybe he doesn't look so big in this picture. How about this one? Fortunately, they usually stay at least 160 feet below the surface. Despite looking ferocious, Japanese spider crabs are pretty easy to capture. They've been so overfished, laws are now in place to protect them. For Teen Kids News, I'm George.
What do you call this? Sure, it's a strawberry. How about this? If you said blueberry, correct. And this one? Yes, a raspberry. Congrats! You named each one correctly. Except that each one is actually misnamed. None of these are really berries. In botany, berries only come from flowers that have a single ovary. All these come from flowers that have multiple ovaries. So, what fruit really is a berry? Bananas! Because they come from plants with just one ovary, bananas are technically berries. I know, very confusing. For Teen Kids News, I'm Katerina.
Well, that wraps up our show for this week. But we'll be back with more Teen Kids News next week. See you then.